All right, everyone, we are live, and it is episode number 78 of the RSP Film Room. And I would like to welcome to our show an analyst from GM Junior, Mr. Scott Bischoff. Scott, thanks again for returning to the show. We had a good time watching last year an FSU prospect. Today we're going to get to watch a Clemson prospect.
Well, thanks for having me back. I appreciate it. Last year was fun. Today will be fun. This is going to be interesting. I'm looking for you for a little bit of answers from you too. So we'll see how this goes.
It'll be cool. It's going to be a learning experience for both of us because today we're going to watch defensive end Shaq Lawson, and Scott and I talked about some options of players to watch, and I mentioned Lawson, and he said, I'd like to watch him, and I think he'd be a good one for us to look at together. But I have a contrarian opinion on him compared to the rest of the of what we see out there in terms of the major media and from even a lot of draftniks on Twitter about where this guy should go. He's regarded as a top 10 pick right now in some circles, maybe even a top 5 pick in some circles, and Scott gave, and I talked about this a little bit before the show, and I'd like for you, if you could, to tell our audience a little bit about not only what you look for in defensive end play, but what the context is about this draft class, maybe the next draft class, and what it is about Lawson that why you feel like that maybe he's not worth that high of a pick, and where you feel he would be a good pick.
Well, so when I look at DNs, we're looking at college film, and what we're essentially trying to do is look at traits. Do these traits translate to the NFL level? We already know that things happen faster at the NFL level. Players are bigger, they're quicker, they're faster. So when we're looking at college production, we have to determine whether that production is production that can carry over to the NFL level. So we're looking at athletic ability. We're looking at flexibility. We want. I want to see first step quickness. I want to see explosiveness. I want to see hip flexibility. I want to see speed rush. I want to see what kind of pass rush moves they have. I want a guy who's going to defend the run. I want a guy who's going to set the edge. Now we're talking specifically about the end position. I want to see a player who can understand the difference between what a run is and a pass is in the context of as the play's happening, right? We want to see some awareness. We want to see some closing speed. We want to see a guy who can turn the corner and beat a player with speed, but also have enough hand usage, heavy hands to play with power. Lawson's got some of that. There's some stuff. I mean, that's just a very general look at some of the things. I mean, we want to see quickness, agility, balance. We want to see a guy that can change direction. We want to see coordination. We want to see competitiveness. We want to see toughness. We want to see, and Lawson's got that in spades. We want to see, does he play with leverage? Can he finish? So there's a lot to look at, and there's a lot to see. All right, these are things he's doing at the college level, but can those things that he's doing at the college level translate, and can he do them at the NFL level? And that's the quandary I have with Lawson, is trying to figure out, yes, he's very productive as a college player, more defending the run than as a pass rusher. Is that going to translate to the NFL level? I do believe he can defend the run at the NFL level, and I think he'll be just fine there because I think he plays with enough grit and nastiness and toughness, and he's heavy-handed. He plays with good leverage. He plays with a lot of pop behind his pads. My questions are with him are all about his athleticism. I don't know how deep you want to go down this rabbit hole.
Go ahead, please.
So my first exposure to Lawson was many months ago, and I watched him, and I don't have much hair left, but I literally wanted to pull out my hair watching him play, because every snap I saw him as the last defender moving off the line of scrimmage. And I actually put a picture up on Twitter because it drove me nuts watching it, thinking about, all right, against Notre Dame, and we'll see it. against Notre Dame, he's still in a 3-point stance, but the running back's already got the ball. And it's how, I don't know how effective you can be if you're getting off the ball that late. So when problem with that is that there's a little negative bias that you're bringing into an evaluation. I'm going to be the first to admit it, that for a while, all I saw with Lawson is negativity. Every time he got off the ball, that's the only thing I noticed was, wow, he's late again. Oh, he's late again. Well, sometimes you just got to set that aside because it's not helping the evaluation. It's almost like, and we'll give credit to Matt Harmon. Hi, Matt. When he talked about a receiver or a tight end dropping passes and how you have to just kind of set that aside, because if all you're seeing is a guy drop passes, it's really not helping your evaluation. So, but I still see that with Lawson. I still see him as a guy who almost looks like when he gets off the ball, it looks like he's coming out of sand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's that to me is alarming. He's always late. One of the reasons why, and people give him credit for this, and some of it, there is some credit that's deserved, but a lot of people talk about how he never gets up the field past a quarterback. Well, it's because he's so late getting off the ball. So a lot of times the production he does get is plays that get squeezed to him. He's so late that he's supposed to be past the quarterback, but he's not able to get there. So, again, it's one of those things where while we're watching this today, I'm hoping that I can set some of that stuff aside. And if you even need to call me out on it, he's not really late there, but you know what I'm saying? It's one of those things. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but
I do. And I think that those are common. I think what you mentioned are very common things that happen when you're evaluating players, and I think it's important for anyone who's listening that we all encounter these situations where we have a first very negative inclination about a player, and that, with additional viewings or more time away from the player or other opinions to be able to just watch together with people, it's kind of that whole thing when, people on Twitter ask you questions, they go, am I crazy for thinking this? It's that kind of situation where sometimes it's nice to get together and watch tape and see if we see some of the same things. And when you mentioned some of those things to me, I'd watched Lawson and the things that I saw right away were I saw a really good run defender. I saw someone who definitely has the strength to be able to push a guy into the backfield. I saw some evidence of being able to get around the corner, but I never really saw him consistently get that edge and defeat a quarterback and get the sack or disrupt the quarterback in a way that I wanted to see as consistently as he should do it. And I just didn't see it consistently from him in the 3 games that I watched.
The way I feel about him is that, so you asked a question earlier about where I think he would be a good pick. And I think I have him graded as a mid to late second round player, which I know somebody out there watching this, their head just went, what?
Sure.
Yeah,
but tell them why. Yeah.
Well, I think when you're drafting a player at that position as high as where he's projected to go, he better impact the passing game, and that has to be his first impact, because you can find run defenders down the line. And the way I try to come up with a way to explain it, it's like, we all have our favorite bands, and it's like, going back in the old days, like when Metallica put out "And Justice for All," right? That was awesome. And you find out that they got a new CD or a new album coming out, and the next one comes out, and it's like, wow, it's not at all like "And Justice for All." I wanted "And Justice for All." And the way I view Lawson is, I've seen, we see the Vic Beasleys of the world, and we see these electric defensive ends, and to me, he just feels like a band who put out a great first album, and Shaq Lawson is their second album, and it's just not the same. I don't know if that's this good, but that's how I feel about him. He leaves me wanting more.
Yeah. And you did a great job of talking about, before this, you talked about this class compared to the next class, and why, use those as a point of comparison of to where Lawson would be based on what you've seen already.
Well, so each class has its own strengths and weaknesses. This particular class is loaded at the defensive tackle position. So loaded that I think guys that you're going to grab in the second round would probably be first round graded defensive tackles next year, because the class is pretty thin next year. But the inverse of that is that a lot of the defensive ends in this class are getting artificially squeezed up draft boards because there just aren't very many of them. And to be honest, they're not very good in relation to what we've seen in the past. But next year, you've got, and there are no guarantees these guys are coming out, but next year you've got players like Myles Garrett and Derek Barnett. Myles Garrett's from Texas A&M, and Derek Barnett from Tennessee, and Charles Harris from Missouri, and Carl Lawson from Auburn. There's a few more. There's his name. There's a kid from Illinois who's a monster. He's had a couple of huge games against big competition, against Wisconsin and Ohio State. Deshaun Hand from Alabama. I'm not sure if he stacks up as far as a guy that would relate, translate to what Lawson is. So you've got players who in next year's class at the DN position are to me much better pass rushers than what Lawson is going to give you. So I asked the question is where would Lawson be in a class like next year? And my guess is he would be, maybe the 6th or 7th defensive end off the board, right about where he should go, which, late first round, early part of round 2. That's kind of where I would think I'd be more comfortable with him than as a top 10 player. But so I think that teams need to do a really good job of examining what's coming down the line when a lot of times historically they have not. Why would you take player A when next year there's a bunch of guys who are much better than that guy that you might get later?
Yeah, and that's an interesting point. And I think that for us today, when we watch Lawson, we're going to watch him against Notre Dame. And if we have more time, maybe we'll pick a second game. But we'll watch him against Notre Dame and see whether or not, what are some of the things that make him at least a late first round pick? Because a lot of people will look at, well, first round, second round, what's the biggest difference? But I think you highlighted it well, saying if he's a high first round pick, you're looking for an instant impact player who can be that leader, Pro Bowl type of player, who can be a statistical leader, who can force double teams, who can cause teams to have to game plan around him specifically. Whereas a late first round player or second round player is more of a guy who might develop into that if he surprises us, but he's not there yet. He might not even be a starter yet. He may be more of a guy that you can put in and let contribute on certain downs, maybe rotate.
Yes. He's a guy that you need to develop into something. Now, can Lawson be that guy? Yeah, that's exactly what he should be. But to view Lawson as a guy who's going to come in and be a dominant pass rushing defensive end while playing the run right away, I think that's asking for too much. And I think we'll see evidence of it, as we watch.
Good. So for those of you who are new and have heard our talk show format of the discussion, we're gonna get to actually watching the tape, and we're gonna watch it via draft breakdown. And welcome back, fellas. It's good to see you guys backing up. They're an absolutely fantastic site, and if you live in a cave and this is new to you and you've never heard of them, they're a great site that provides cut-ups of players. And I'm going to read a little legal disclaimer for this show so that everyone understands here that the videos here posted at the RSP Film Room aren't hosted on the server, and the original video content isn't considered property of the RSP Film Room. Videos are considered to be used under the Fair Use Doctrine of the United States Copyright Law, Title 17, U.S. Codes 107 through 118. And the videos are used on this site for editorial and educational purposes only. And the RSP Film Room and its staff don't claim ownership of any original video content. And the RSP Film Room staff don't use these video clips in advertisements or marketing or for direct financial gain. All the video content in each clip is considered owned by the individual broadcast companies. We're going to look at the tape. We're going to rewind stuff, slow-mo things, talk about what we see in terms of technique, and it's used as a learning tool for us to be able to see. So with that in mind, I'm going to get Scott set up here so that he and I can both watch Mr. Lawson do his work here. And let me get that set up. Make sure that we're good to go. How does that look to you?
Well, it looks good.
All right. Let's start with it in half speed because that tends to be the least jumpiest on when we share. And if it needs to be adjusted, you let me know.
Okay.
All right. And then you see right away, he's accounting for his assignments early on, trying to keep that outside shoulder and set that edge.
Yep. I like that he uses the one arm to see through the tight end, to see through that block.
Yeah.
He uses his left arm, peeks around with the right arm. Those are subtle things, but it gives you the concept that he is looking for the ball.
Yep.
He's got the left arm out there. He's holding that guy off. He's playing with a little bit of leverage, peeking at the ball. And he's making his move towards the ball that plays over.
And, we could talk about heavy hands and everything, but he's man up on a tight end right now.
Yeah, you would expect him to jolt that guy and hold that. I mean, he should be.
Yeah.
It's a nice play.
Yeah, let's take a look at it one more time here.
Again, eyes on the ball.
Yep.
One of the things that is hard to find with him is to find him get out of position as a run defender. It's very difficult to find it.
Yeah.
He's got very good instincts as a run defender.
And this was a play where his cohort really got the penetration into the backfield early, but he does a good job of maintaining that gap discipline so that Precise has nowhere to go. And getting upfield like this too, he had his teammate cleaned it up. The fact that he got up here as early as he did and watched the ball and got up here foiled these pulling blocks.
Yes.
So you see the run, you see the intelligence in the run game.
Yep. No doubt.
And he's a long arm dude, and that's a really nice thing to have when you're an edge rusher. So certainly physically look from just a dimensional standpoint, he fits the bill.
Let's rewind that.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yep.
So he has 32 3/4 inch arms. His arm length is fine, but for a defensive end in today's game, he is considered to be shorter and a shorter armed player at 6'2.5" with sub 33-inch arms. He is considered to be a shorter defensive end.
See, look at me. I'm already too old for this. No, but it's a good point. It's a great point. I'm just making fun of myself because that's good to know. I'm just thinking, okay, wow. You look at him. That's why measurement is so important, because I'm looking at him thinking that's a pretty long arm looking lanky dude. But if you watch defensive ends on a regular basis like you do, I don't. You
can look up at the top of the screen. Kevin Dodd is at the top of the screen in the 4-point stance. Now those are long arms.
Yeah.
Right. Now that's a different kind of a player. If Dodd's 6'5", Lawson is 6'2.5". Dodd's not going to give you run defense like Lawson gives you.
True.
So I just want to see his get off on this play and see how late he is coming off the ball.
Okay. There's the snap.
Yep.
We've got two guys already with their hands off the ground. Shaq's arms are both on the ground.
Yeah. Still. So if you look at that, I know it doesn't seem like it's much, but that subtle bit of lateness causes him to not be able to get that. I mean, Stanley's in his pass set already before Stanley's ready to go, and Lawson's not out of the blocks yet. And that's a problem.
Yeah. Even though Stanley sure seems to likes to pop up a little bit there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And that lateness allows, this is a play where he's actually, there's some pressure that he gets on the quarterback, but okay, is this a play where this is all about pressure? I know he spins back inside.
Yeah, this is a good point by you, because here's the deal. You're going to look at this, and I want to look at this in two angles for us. Like, let's start with the angle from Lawson's point of view. If you're looking at purely Lawson, you're saying, okay, I like that he gets his hand on the outside shoulder and he rips under.
Yep.
And gets that position and turns the corner. There's some bend here. It's not unbelievably impressive, but he gets some bend and he's quick enough to get the corner because of what he did with his hands. And there's some force in those hands. You can definitely see when he rips under, he's doing some moving of that piano here.
Oh, absolutely.
And then to be able to set it up like that is really smooth.
Yes.
But so the fact that he forces a double team here is nice in its own right. But let's go back now to the quarterback's point of view, because this is where you got to watch what is good quarterbacking, because you brought this up very well. Good quarterbacking is when you feel pressure, you climb in the pocket and you feel the gaps here. You have a double team right up in front of you. And while, yes, I understand there's an edge player right here, your first choice should probably be to climb and exit this way.
Yeah.
Even with this defender here, because he's going to get under that and be able to work outside. He's a good athlete and be able to throw the ball on the move or run. And instead, he tries to climb a higher depth where he's going to lose more yardage.
Well, it's what I mentioned before. Lawson doesn't get far enough up the field for the quarterback to climb into that area. So the quarterback kind of walks into him.
Yeah.
So, are we going to give him credit for spinning back? I think you have to. I think you've got to give him credit for getting the corner and being able to see that, all right, I'm not going to be able to turn the corner because I just don't, I can't, right? I think he gets to a point where he recognizes I simply am not turning the corner here, right about there, right?
Yeah.
And you've got to go back inside to squeeze that gap. And that's good instincts. That's a smart play. But if the quarterback flushes out of there the way he should, is there any production in that play?
Right. And it's a fair question. And these are the types of questions that may seem very nitpicky. And I know that a lot of readers sometimes will or viewers will listen to something like this and go, well, it's nitpicky and it'll get coached up and da 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 da. But these are the differences between a player who you say is ready to play right now and a player who may not be ready right away to do the type of damage that people want to, would expect from him as a top 5 or top 10 pick.
You can see the leverage he plays with. You can see him with the power in his hands on that play.
Let's watch it one more time here.
See, now on that play, I'm not going to knock him for coming off late because I think he's supposed to.
Yeah. And he's accounting for that end around, type of action. And he definitely can collapse a pocket, I mean, there's certainly something worthwhile there with that.
No doubt.
And when he hits you, let's see. Let's look at this one more time. Let's do it one more time because I don't know if we got to see the snap, and we might not see the snap on this play. Yeah, we don't get to see the snap on this play. But you see that he's already got good depth, and he's playing this tight end. So, again, it's the tight end that he's getting this off of.
Yeah. And he does a real good job of shedding that block and making that. He sets the edge, sheds the block, makes the play.
Yeah, this is what you're supposed to do when you're facing a tight end in the run game.
Yeah. There you have a little bit of a drop in the coverage, which is going to make 34 teams think, well, maybe we can drop that guy into coverage. I don't think that's a wise move, but.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, I think this is more of we can do some, as a 4-3 team, we can do some interesting things schematically if we'd like with him occasionally.
Yeah.
Because he shows awareness. It's not
When I watched this play, this one opened my eyes, and I thought, that is a phenomenal play. And it doesn't look like it is, but the ability for him to break down, to not get kind of faked out by that fake there, to not lose himself, to hold his water, to understand that he's got a responsibility in this play.
Yeah.
This is a great play. Again, it's against the run, but it's a phenomenal play. It shows great instinct. It shows that that, he understands what his role is in this defense. He understands where he needs to be to make plays.
Yeah, and that's nice. It really is. And we'll get to see it, I guess, from another angle in a minute here. But
I mean, a lot of guys are going to bite on the running back there, and the quarterback's just going to turn that up the field.
yeah,
It might be a 3 or 4 yard gain, but
it still matters,
Yeah.
And this is, I guess my question to you is, do you look? But does you said you can find run defenders later in the draft.
Yeah.
So I understand where if you've got a quick twitch outside edge rusher extraordinaire, a Myles Garrett to me would be an example of a guy who I could see overrunning that play.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And therein lies, some of the issues, where Lawson's value is he's not going to overrun that play. He's going to stay home. His instincts are going to lead him to the ball. He's going to make a play, and he's going to finish that quarterback on the ground. Where other guys, yeah, absolutely, they're going to overrun it. They're going to get past the quarterback. They're going to bite on the running back, and that could be a 5 or 6 yard play. Who knows what it'll be?
Right.
All right, here he is in a 4-point stance. All right, there's some lateness getting off the ball.
Let's look at it one more time.
And I think he's lined up off sides too. But
he is, and this is a very common issue with him.
Oh,
Have you noticed this?
Yeah.
He's like, I've seen 3 games, and at least once or twice a game, he's in the neutral zone, whether in a 2-point or in a 4-point.
Look at that.
The ball is in the quarterback's hands, and his hands are still on the ground.
Yes, and your nose tackle is already engaged.
Yeah.
Now, I know he's closer to his man than Lawson is, but still.
Is there any reason that you can think of why that would be even allowable? I mean, can you even come up with a reason why that? I mean, because that's the only thing I could think is there some sort of responsibility that he's trying to handle here? And I don't see anything coming down the pike that would say.
No, I mean, it's not like they're stunting. It's not like he's looping. To me, that is just a guy with below average or average, whatever you want to consider it to be, first step quickness. I would also say that he has very poor snap anticipation, and combine those two things with, a little bit of hip stiffness. I think he does have stiff hips, and I think you're looking at the combination of those 3 things being in some ways lethal at the snap, getting off the ball. So you've got a guy who doesn't anticipate the snap real well, a guy who has not a bad first step, it's the wrong way to put it, but I would say an average first step, and a guy who's not super explosive getting out of his stance, and it makes him look like he's coming out of sand.
So
like I mentioned before.
Let me play devil's advocate with you about this one, because I don't know the answer either, but it's interesting to me. This play and the next play, look at the snap here, and I would say that the defensive end on the opposite side, maybe he just also has a slow get off too, but I'm noticing on this play and the next play that both aren't exactly like charging up field. Or
see, now that one, when I look at Dodd on that play, to me it looks like he is trying to get up the field, but not towards the quarterback. He's trying to hold the image.
Right.
He's trying to get that outside shoulder.
Right.
So I can understand why he wants to delay a little bit getting up the field, because he's got to get laterally.
Then how about this one? Let's look at this next play here, because this is one I noticed too. Is it because he's waiting to see what he's trying to play the run here and wait?
Yeah.
Then that's okay. Then that makes sense. Because he has responsibility for the quarterback or it's a run to the outside.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're fearful of a little bit of the read option there. Right?
Right. Okay, good. Yeah, then I don't have a reason for you. Because that seemed to, that was my only thing is, I'm going to keep an eye on both guys here, but from what I see.
I mean, you can see it on that play. There it is again.
Yeah. When you're the backside rusher and you don't have any responsibilities other
He
than
just
to
lined up
rush the
offside.
passer. Yeah.
Look at his left hand. And that's nitpicking, but it's still, those things are going to matter.
Yeah, look how far over he is.
Yeah.
He does this all the time. It is probably one of the most annoying things I've seen about his game is just this. It's an attention to detail issue, or it may be if I can get away with it, I will.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not as annoying, but let's take a look at this one more time.
See him swat at Stanley's hands there.
Yeah.
He's very active with his hands. He does a really good job of keeping himself clean.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm most impressed with is that he does use his hands well. And he knows how to play that one-hand game.
Oh yeah. He's longer, and I think that's a component of him being an instinctual guy and understanding that he's longer with one arm than he is with two.
Yeah.
But it also tells you that he's got shorter arms because he knows he's got to do that.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. But look at him, he gets a little push on Stanley here, and it's not like Stanley's in horrible position. He gets a nice little shove there.
Oh, yeah.
Holding the line. And now he's using that one hand again to try and turn in, but he's driven out.
Yeah.
But you can see the strength there, even if he doesn't.
He's got some pop, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm not doubting him as a run defender on any level. It's more, you're talking about an elite draft position where people are talking about him going and.
Yeah, a special player.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't see a special player. I agree with you. I see a good run defender thus far, and from the games I've seen before, I see a strong guy. I love the spin move, but doesn't mean that I'm, this is, again, a nice run play.
But look, if we can go back, look how late he is. I mean, look at that.
Yeah.
And he's unblocked. He gets underneath the pole. It's a great play.
Yeah.
Right? That's exactly what you'd want a guy to do. But again, it's against the run.
Yeah.
I like how he dips his shoulder. He gets underneath that guy.
And I haven't seen him yet miss a tackle. I mean, once he gets his hands on you, he does a pretty good job of.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see missed tackles from Shaq Lawson.
Yeah.
He's not. I mean, he's a tough guy. He's fiery. He's a competitor. There are times when you can see him at the end of games kind of wind it down a little bit, but as a run defender, he's stout. He's very stout at the point of attack.
And that was a nice little move that he did there too.
Yeah.
Even though it was, nothing there for him, but.
Yeah, but he's still got to defend that corner. That's his job.
So yeah, let's see if we can get some. All right, again, mashed up against the tight end. I see this a lot too with him. He's going to get a little double team.
Now, if you rewind that play and you look at how – here I go again. If you look at how late he is, this one's bad.
Yeah, so the hand just starts coming up and the quarterback's already turning. Yeah.
And he gets washed out of that play because truly, I mean, I'm not sure if his responsibility is to make that play, but he's so late coming off the ball that Stanley's on him before he really can get out of his stance.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't really taken a full step yet, and he's already engaged.
Because what happens if he gets off right about here? If he's engaged the way his teammates are engaged or engaging, he's probably going to be pushing this man back enough that Lawson may be forced to have to. If Lawson turns inside, he's going to have Lawson's back to him, and he's not going to be able to push into the back. And if he has to try and angle a little bit more towards this area, Lawson can spin off of this maybe to the inside.
Yeah,
and be more of a part of coming down the line to make a play.
Right, but he's taking himself out of that play because getting off the ball and kind of getting pushed. There's no spinning back inside because Stanley's just walled him off.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't look like a lot right there, but that's pretty stout at the point of attack. That's what you want to see in run defense.
Yeah, because
look at the jolt and the hands.
Yeah. Nice under the shoulder, and then he rips under.
Yep.
So that he's maintained. Now he's got the advantage because he's got a nice square base towards the ball carrier, and it's Stanley who's having to work from an angle. And Stanley doesn't move him after that.
I wouldn't consider Stanley to be in a position of strength in that scenario.
Yeah. Not at all.
Yeah, no, trying to push him off the ball, it's not something that Stanley does well. It's not his game. It's a nice play.
All right. I want to say, looking at it from a short, let's see if we can look at this just a little bit more off the get off. There's the snap.
Yeah.
Now, his teammates also
yeah.
sitting here in a 3-point. Both of these guys on the outside. Dodd and Lawson. Keep watching this to see if that's just an isolated instance or not.
Yeah, that's something I'd like to ask.
Yeah. Because it makes me wonder. I mean, it just makes me wonder if both guys are late like this, are they both slow? Yeah, maybe they are. But is there like I would love if I were a scout, I'd love to be able to look at his tape and ask Dabo Sweeney or the defensive coordinator, defensive line coach, your guys seem to be laid off the edge all the time. Is there something to that is more to do with what you guys do, or you're asking to do something that I'm not aware of, or are they just slow?
Because that would really help. Now one of the things that that compounds some of the questions about Lawson as an athlete is Lawson played heavy, right? I want to say he played in the 280s. And, you look at the combine numbers, he ran a 4.7, but he also lost around 15 pounds to get there.
Right.
So when we're watching this, are we looking at a player who's got outstanding athleticism and quickness and speed? No. So the questions are when he puts weight back on, what does he become as an athlete? Is it a bit of a shell game? Are we looking at a guy who lost? I mean, I know they all do that, and it's smart to do that. You want to put up your best 40 time and all that quickness and all that stuff. But the reality is I don't think that's what he is as a player.
Right.
I don't think we're seeing that speed on film.
No. And if you look at it right now, I mean, this is Precise, who's a fast guy and good around the corner, but he's not the fastest guy the NFL has ever seen at running back. And Lawson is hanging on for dear life here. He gets one hand on Precise. And if it wasn't for the fact that his buddy over here, Boulware, nails him, Precise is working up the sideline here. Because look at that. I mean, that's, you can say that's a good play, but that's really on Boulware.
Yeah.
Here, it's not, Lawson didn't slow him down.
No. And we've really yet to see him expose Stanley. You know what I'm saying? We haven't seen it
Not
yet.
Off the edge, no.
With power, yes.
Once again, we'll get him dropping on early stages of a crossing route. I like that he gets some contact there and rides the man. And it just gives you the indication that this is a smart, disciplined football player. And that's why, even if you have a contrarian view of him, the fact that you have him in the late first, early second round, you're seeing why he's that type of player.
Yeah. you can see how he could be effective.
Yeah. Now this one we need to watch again probably in a sec.
Yeah, this is all pure power and leverage, bull rush. You know, but you know when you look at Lawson, it's bull rush or spin move.
Yeah. Little dip to the inside there. I don't know how effective that was, but I like how he placed his hands.
Oh yeah,
that's one thing that you got to really. Again, this is one of those things that really makes him intriguing because even in the first, second round, the reason that you keep him first, second round, if all he was a run defender, you wouldn't be drafting him in the first or second round. You'd be drafting him in the third or fourth or fifth round probably if all he could do was defend the run. Right. I would think, right?
I mean, you could make an argument that, you know, if you were a team that was pretty close to being complete and you needed a power defensive end to defend the run, you could see why a team would do that in the second round.
That makes sense.
You know, it would have to be a specific situation, but yeah, there are run defenders there are guys who are solid enough athletes to be able to play the run, but it's, you know, when you're drafting that high, you want something more than just that.
Yeah. So, you know, where I see potential with him, at least again, and you mentioned it too, is his hands. The fact that he knows how to get his hands underneath and get them under that bicep, that tricep area, moving them up, and then the strength to be able to push back. That's nice. I mean, this is nice. It's not top round caliber stuff, but it's
just indicative of the kind of power that he has.
Yeah.
He's going up against one of the elite tackles in this class. That's impressive.
Yeah.
It's not like watching Vic Beasley and seeing him just rip around the corner and thinking, man, that's rare. It's not rare, right? It's not, elite, but the power, like you were saying, the heavy hands, the hand placement, the ability to move his guy into the. I mean, that's productive to push a tackle into the quarterback and make the quarterback uncomfortable. That's productive.
Yeah. And you know, it's interesting because we talk about the other thing too that I think that I'm learning a little bit more about defensive end play as the years go by is it's a lot like wide receiver play. As like a fan or a casual viewer of it, you can get really impressed by some of the fancier looking exaggerated moves, and you think, wow, this guy can run routes, or this guy can make people miss, or this guy, look at that spin move. We're going to see one in a minute here. But it's the very clean, minimalistic, efficient moves that are the most difficult to make and the least noticeable to the untrained eye that are the most impressive. It's not, you know, this is great. This is fun to watch.
Oh, that one's unbelievable. Yes.
Yeah. But that's not, but defensive tackles are like, or offensive tackles, we're always looking for the spin move.
Yeah.
We're always accounting for that. And it's not an efficient move. I mean, even as quick as it is and as efficient as it is as a spin move, it's different than saying, I'm going to go right around you by contorting my body at a level where it doesn't, you know, you barely even notice that I've just turned the corner on you.
Yeah.
It's the same way of saying, you know, I'm going to run a stop and go route as opposed to I'm going to drop my hips and, you know, on a comeback route and just show this very smooth bend. You know, defensive backs understand that night and day that they're expecting the double move.
Yeah.
But, you know, they don't expect someone at full speed to suddenly just drop their hips and be at a sudden stop and turn around.
Yeah, and you know, that is, like you're saying, it's a nice spin move. I mean, he has a devastating spin move. It's nasty, but again, translatable skills.
Yeah.
Does that spin move translate at the next level when there is I shouldn't say zero chance, but there's almost no chance he's going to beat these guys around the corner. Yeah. So if a tackle's just, all right, I'm good to the corner, I've got to concern myself with the spin move and kick him back inside, I think it's less effective at the next level.
Yeah, it's like It's like a guy who only has a fastball but can't throw the curve.
Yeah.
So we know that he can overpower you. We know that he can spin by you, but neither of these moves are the most dangerous type of move that you need to have as a defensive end.
Correct. To be considered an elite or very good prospect, no, they're not.
Yeah, you're not an elite pass rusher without that type of movement. And here, I mean, obviously we're watching him. He had the running back who, if he tried to turn the corner, running back's going to chip him.
Yeah.
And he was aware of that.
Yeah, and he walks Stanley back into the quarterback, and he kind of forces that play. It's productive.
Yes.
So it's hard to look at that and think, well, that's a negative play. No, it was productive. He made a nice play. Yeah. He made the quarterback make a throw. He made the quarterback uncomfortable. That's his job. He just doesn't do it. There you go with the one-handed. That's a smart play right there.
Yeah, and it's like the difference between Alfred Morris and Adrian Peterson at running back. Alfred Morris is a good football player. He can certainly he's gonna give you those gains to move the chains, and if you surround him with a lot of great talent, he can get the job done for you. But you're not looking at a guy who's going to break off 50, 60-yard runs or who's going to catch a lot of passes.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can get this right here. I keep missing the play. This wasn't it. That's why.
Was it the next one?
Yeah, it's the next one. Here we go.
Yeah. I like that he uses one hand on the next one and he gets his arm up. He recognizes pass is coming. Smart player. Good instincts.
Yeah.
It's the next one.
Okay. I think I missed it.
Okay.
Let's see. This might have been it. Yeah. Yeah, I missed it, but
that's okay.
I got your point. Yeah, we'll move on because we'll end up spending an hour on this show annoying everyone with me trying to find the play.
All right, now there is a case where he does have the corner, and I think, I mean, he's got him beat. And if he had, if he had real good hips and if he had real good speed and if he had real good flexibility and agility, he could beat him on this play around the corner. And he just can't do it.
And I can't.
He does a really nice job recovering there.
Yeah. And there's the ball. Ball's already through the legs. And both these defensive ends still hands on the ground. Both of them. And Lawson actually gets off before his teammate this time.
His get off on that play was great.
Yeah.
And you could see him beat Stanley to the corner.
Yeah.
But he just doesn't have the bend to be able to finish.
Yeah, because that's a good bend right here, but this next step has to be better.
Right.
And he couldn't quite bend through there. And yeah, Stanley was a part of being able to turn the corner on him there.
Yeah, but you and I both know from watching enough of this to know that if that's an elite talent, that he's around. He's
around it right here.
Yes.
Yeah, he should be. And to his credit, he pressures the quarterback, forces an incomplete pass.
Sure.
But Phillip Rivers isn't going to care about that.
No.
Phillip Rivers is going to be like, go ahead and hit me. I've just completed the pass. You can hit me all day long. I'm going to yell at my offensive lineman, and we're going to score after an 11-play drive. If you're the only pressure I'm getting. No. I'll add that to
a real good look at his get off on this play.
All right. Look at that. The only guys off what's going on with Clemson? That's what I want to know. I'm just looking at, we've got we've got the defensive tackle here. And who is 94? Is that Reader?
No, Reader.
He's a reserve still a little bit.
Reader was he missed the first 6 weeks, so he's not in. He's number 48.
He's number 48. That's right.
He's not in this one.
Okay, good. Yeah, so slow get off on that one.
And I haven't, I maybe it would be a good thing to chart his get off out of the 4-point, out of the 3-point, and then out of the 2-point to see, is there a difference?
Yeah.
Is he quicker standing up? I mean, I don't think so, but.
I mean, I do like his, solid player, very solid player.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to knock him for any. I mean, he's a very solid player. It's hard to knock him for anything other than, elite or upper level athleticism, which I just don't think he has.
Yeah, and I don't see it. I mean, who was the Copels? Quentin Copels.
Yeah,
that's an example of a player. I remember Gene Bramwell doing a nice little examination of talking about where he needed to bend better and what he needed to do to get the edge. But I'm looking at Copels and thinking Copels was better at getting an edge than Lawson was.
Which is scary.
Yeah, because what has Copels done? I mean, what has he really done as a pass rusher in New York?
Nothing, or very little. The only thing I'd say there is that I think Lawson will give you significantly better effort as a run defender than Copels did.
Yes, completely agree there. Completely agree there. I mean, and that's probably why Copels isn't a name that we think about very often in New York's defense as a player of great significance. But the fact that Copels was a higher graded player, I think, or a similarly graded player, and a lot of it was for his pass rush ability, and you see that he needed work on some of the things he was doing, and Lawson isn't even. We're not seeing that. I haven't seen that in 3 games. This game may be the only, and that's the thing I want to note is that it's been 3 games that I haven't seen this. It's not this one viewing against Stanley. And I know you've seen it. You've seen far more games than I, and haven't seen it.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where when I said earlier, it just leaves you wanting a little more. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Is you just don't see that element of what you really want to see, given where people are talking about him going.
Yeah, and I think that this is where scouting or evaluation starts to bleed into personnel decision making and the wisdom of decision making, and where it can get kind of frustrating because people will take truisms or take points and start to make truisms out of them as opposed to situation by situation things. Yeah, defensive ends are valuable. That doesn't mean necessarily that we need to draft all defensive ends who have a pulse or who are good, but not great that early. It's it becomes a panicky thing. It's just like people building bomb shelters during the Cold War because we were worried about what was going to happen during the Cold War, where it becomes this point where it's like people start to overreact and do things that might be, you start to look at it and might be a little bit more questionable than you would imagine, and I mean maybe that's a bad analogy, but you know what I'm saying.
That there's a reactionary move to artificially squeeze players like Shaq Lawson and Ogba and some of the other DNs in this class up this draft board simply because there aren't very good DNs in this class.
Yeah.
I think it's a mistake to take them real high just because maybe he's the second best one in the class. That doesn't mean he deserves to be a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
But it's a reactionary thing to think, well, we need a defensive end. He's the best one in this class. It's almost like looking at this tight end class and saying, we need a tight end. Let's take the best tight end in this class in the first round.
Right.
To do that.
Yeah. No. And it's I feel the same way about quarterbacks. I know a lot of people don't, but I've definitely been a more conservative person about drafting quarterbacks early for that very reason, because I keep thinking we hear media kind of regurgitate all these rules about what players should go when and how high, and you don't draft this position here, you don't draft this position there. But I don't hear anybody saying that about drafting Ezekiel Elliott high now after all these years of people whining about how running backs don't have value and how that they're not, it's not smart to pick a first round running back. And I'm thinking, well, Marshawn Lynch would beg to differ. Adrian Peterson would beg to differ. I'm sure Matt Forte, even though they haven't, been able to do what they needed to do with Forte to build around him, would have differed. It's good players, if they're first round worthy, you pick them. Al Davis, I'm sure, begged to differ about Ray Guy picking him as a punter in the first round. Now, he's a grand exception, but still, it's like, if you're confident in picking talent over just some sort of Emily Post rules for drafting, I think that, maybe we won't have this quandary. Because, look, now that's a nice play, but he should have finished this, and he just he should have destroyed this tight end.
Yeah, he did. He just didn't finish. And the question is why doesn't he finish this play?
Yeah.
What happens?
I'm gonna take a guess, but I look at this and I think this is I'm gonna destroy 82. Like this guy's like 3/4 of my weight. I'm gonna shove him aside. And he probably felt like maybe I don't need to destroy him as much. I thought, I've got rid of him. Nice little push.
Yeah.
Let me just get in here. When he should have really just shoved the heck out of this guy more than he did.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of keeps the tight end alive there by not, kind of putting the dagger in, so to speak.
That's exactly it. I mean, this was not a killer finishing move.
No.
In the NFL, I mean, Jared Allen had that opportunity back in the day. This guy would have been like at the 28 on the ground, turning around, looking to see if his quarterback still had a heartbeat.
Yeah. And then sometimes I wonder if when Lawson bullies guys at the line of scrimmage like that, is he happy? Is he happy just, all right, I've done my job. I've blew up the blocker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a little bit of that. I like to show off and blow this guy up. Well, you got to finish that play.
Yeah. I mean, this is a play where I'm just sitting here thinking, I just did just enough. Like you said, I did just enough to push him out of the way. Now it's time to get to him. And oops, I underestimated that 82 is actually going to try and spin around here. It's like, no, man, you need to get 82 on his ass. And now, you get 82 on his ass, and you're not going to have to worry too much about getting pushed out of this play. I mean, certainly the quarterback does a nice job right here, but there's no way if he's not pushed.
Oh, he's done.
Yeah, he's done. And now we're looking at a first down. Easy first down. If it was caught,
that's a whole other story.
Yeah, I'm really trying. I mean, I'm really trying to find a reason why you could say this guy has, the skills that you would put him that high, but I don't see it.
And it makes me wonder if we're watching at half speed, if it's actually hurting him more, to be honest.
Right. But I don't know. I mean, I watch enough guys who are first day guys where we watch this. I mean, heck, I guess the difference is Leonard Williams was a defensive tackle, but even when he worked end at USC, I watched Leonard Williams in half speed a lot with Ryan Riddle, and he and I watched him and we're like, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, you saw enough first step quickness out of Williams. You saw enough explosiveness. You saw everything you wanted to see.
Yeah,
right?
Lotulele, even as a defensive tackle.
Look
Watching him
at
first.
that play.
Yeah.
Rewind. If you could just rewind that just a touch. This is so frustrating.
Yeah.
Now, is he being passive? Is he waiting for that tight end to block? I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But
and that might be it. I mean, it very well might be like, okay, if I stay still and let this tight end go, then I can kind of get outside here and do some work and maybe hope I can push and spin in. But he's got to understand this too. If he's thinking that, which I don't know if he is, it's just my novice mind for this, but I'm looking at it and thinking, I have to expect that there's a double team here and that this guard's going to come off, so I better push up front as much as I can, because if I'm going to try and spin back inside, I need to get Stanley outside.
He needs room.
Here.
Yeah, he needs to clear some space. And the problem is he's so late at that point that he's making contact with Stanley 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage?
Yeah. Stanley won just from that. It's just like I'm delaying, he's delaying the collision point. Yeah, I mean,
it's a nice play right there.
Yeah, CJ, absolutely, he can catch. And he's a nice player. I mean,
yeah.
I've seen some impressive plays from Spiller as a receiver. That was nice boundary awareness. I'll say that for sure. Let's see, here we go. Like I don't know. I mean, this play I look at and think, let's look at the snap again.
I mean, I would consider this one to be a bit of a wash.
Yeah.
He pressures the corner enough that Stanley's got to really get moving to get there, but he can't get the corner.
So he has to work
Stanley
back inside.
Squared him up. Yeah, I mean, there's nowhere for him to go. He's got him squared up. It's kind of he's kind of dead out there.
Once again, gets off just as the quarterback's getting the ball.
Nice hand usage. Look at his hand.
Yeah. That was sweet.
Yep.
Nice little slap there. One arm. And I love how he can kind of dip the shoulder. Yeah. I've seen that a few times. He definitely knows how to kind of dip. He can kind of dip and rip a little bit sometimes. I've seen that on some games.
Yeah.
If you gave him Leonard Floyd's quickness, he'd be a top 5 player. If you gave him what Leonard Floyd had as an athlete, but gave him the same type of strength and hand usage. Yeah.
I think of that, and I think of like Sheldon Richardson, same type of thing. Like you give him his first step and look out.
Yeah.
But we're talking about D tackles.
Yeah.
Which is ironic that we're talking about D tackles for a guy who's playing D end.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of a point for us.
That's a great point for us, and then I'm sitting here thinking, I know that there's something incomplete about players when I start getting into mad scientist mode, trying to like mash up 2 players into one.
Yeah.
And this is kind of where I'm at. It's like I'm thinking, if Leonard Floyd and Shaq Lawson had a co-op, they could do a co-op and we could like get them combined. They could split their check and like have a really nice payday as long as they were willing to split it. And I'd say make it, kind of an 80-20 deal towards Shaq Lawson and give Floyd the 20% that he's going to get for that added speed, then we'd be okay. But I think Floyd knows he's going to get a lot more money early on in his contract. I just hope he saves it.
Yeah.
because I mean, I have concerns about him. I mean, I don't mean it to be as, I know that sounds harsh, but it's, I think that, we're looking at a player in Floyd that I know a lot of people are asking about that I'll watch at some point, but I feel like he's a very good athlete. But if he had some of Shaq Lawson's skills, he would be worthy of that early round pick that I'm seeing.
Yes.
I just don't know if he really is. And I'm seeing the same, we're seeing the same thing here with Lawson late at time after time.
Here we have another play where a player passes in front of him where he's very passive getting off the ball.
Yeah.
Now, there's no way that the player who's moved past him is making contact with him. Is he trying to clear that guy before he gets up the field? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Oh, late there.
I don't get it because it's not helping him one way or the other.
It's hurting him.
Yeah. And now, I like the fact that when he makes the spin and he misses, he's like, I'll just back into him.
Yeah.
And
spin
push
bull
the
rush.
quarterback.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guys who cannot do that.
Yeah.
To spin and throw the bull rush, to have the awareness and the instincts and the physical ability to do it. I mean, that's nasty.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
But again, translatable skills at the NFL level, does that work?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I think he's got, I think it can work, but I don't see it as, again, I see it as late first, early second round stuff. I mean, can Alfred Morris break a 40-yard run? Yes, he can. Can he break a lot of 20, 30, and 40-yard runs in the right system? Yes. But are you going to hand the ball to him on 3rd and 8 and have him break a 75-yard run like Adrian Peterson does? No.
No.
And that's, I see more of an Alfred Morris guy if I were to continue this kind of analogy than I see a Adrian Peterson guy.
Yeah, and we're talking about a guy with limitations.
Yeah.
And limitations that won't be overcome at the next level because the things that cause him to be limited get accentuated because players are bigger but quicker too.
Yeah.
Now, is every tackle going to be quicker than Ronnie Stanley? Maybe not, but some are.
Yeah, and they're going to be.
And they're going to be more. They're going to be stronger. They're going to have more core strength. They're going to hold up against that bull rush much better.
And they're going to be about 10 times more experienced.
Yep.
And smarter about the game at that stage than what we just saw Lawson face right here.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like we're trashing him, and I don't want it to come off like, we're just completely hammering this kid because there are things he does very well. It's just those things are not, top 10 things.
No, and I agree. And I honestly don't think we are. And if some folks think that we are, then, well, I feel bad for you. I feel bad for you guys listening because you've missed the fact that we've talked about how good of a run defender is, how good his hands are, how good he is at playing smart when it comes to gap control and to being able to notice things that are happening and get his hands up and get into passing lanes. He's able to do all those things. Those are great things. You're not a first-round pick or an early second-round pick if you're not a good NFL prospect, and he definitely is that. But
yeah, he is. It's funny. I have a contrarian or a divergent opinion on him, and it's funny because I look at my notes and about 3/4 of the pages all positive things.
Yeah.
Right? The negatives are basically you can't get off the ball. At snap, looks like his feet are in sand. Below average first step quickness. Play speed simply isn't there to consistently turn the corner at the college level.
Yeah.
Average agility and flexibility, stiffness in his movements, especially in his hips. Poor snap anticipation, no twitch, combined with poor first step quickness and stiffness. Bad combination. I have his little pass rush moves. It's either spin move or power. Short arms for a 43 defensive end. He's consistently the last man moving. He's not athletic enough to chase the run away. And then the last one I have is it doesn't have the ankle flexibility or the hip flexibility to allow for his body to efficiently bend at the turn point with precision as he needs space to turn the corner, and he will run past plays that a better athlete would make. And we've seen that on this tape.
Yeah. Now here's a play. Let's look at this. This is a good example of what you just said. That I was thinking, well, there's hope here. This one play right as he bends right here, you want to get that next step.
Yeah, you get that next step and get under the tackle and gone.
But he can't get around.
Yeah.
The ankle isn't going to hold up there either. So it's I mean, I haven't seen anything in other games that changes, that really is different from that.
Now that's nice back inside, but he does get stoned, but it's a nice move. It's something different than power or spin.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if he were a touch more athletic, does he beat Stanley? Does he get it? Does he get his shoulder inside Stanley at that point? And is he able to get in, to penetrate that gap a little better? Maybe. I mean, it's a quick pass, so it may not matter anyway. But
yeah. Yeah. So I mean, overall good player, just not that caliber of a good player.
Yeah. Yeah, solid, very, very solid player.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, you fully understand my issues seeing. I don't know if there's one other. I mean, I'm sure there are, and I'm not trying to pigeonhole myself, but there are I've seen everybody with Lawson in the top 15.
Yeah.
And it's just, you can see my issue with that.
Yeah, I absolutely can see your point. I think it's a little confounding if you look at it from this angle. And unless there's some, I'm going to research other people's points of view to see what they've seen or said, if they can supply that, because I want to learn more now looking at it. But I think that you offered some really compelling points for people to consider who may have not watched Shaq Lawson and have only read about him. You can see where good player, but that extra that makes you a top first round pick just doesn't seem to be there. And I would recommend watching the Florida State game, the Alabama game, North Carolina game, and they didn't face in none of those games. Alabama game, he faced some quality guy.
Yeah.
But those other teams. I mean, Ronnie Stanley's an early pick, for a lot of people, and they're not facing guys who may be as developed as Stanley at this stage. So
this is true, and that's another issue is that when you see him play against the North Carolinas and the Miamis and like you just said, it's the same stuff that we just watched. It's very similar. Very good run defender, powerful, heavy hands, instinctual, smart, tough. Gives you great effort, everything that you want. It's just he's missing that little bit that would make him a top 10-ish player, and that's something he'll never have.
Yeah. So everyone, for Scott Bischoff and I, we want to just thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you found this educational and enlightening, and if you, or at least a fun way to spend an afternoon watching a player. And if you have any comments, obviously you'll be able to get to do that on YouTube. And you can tune in more RSP Film Rooms at my YouTube channel, the RSP Film Room, or follow the blog at www.mattwaldmanrsp.com. And we just thank you again. And until next time, see you later.